At my graduation dinner, my sister ripped up my acceptance letter, spilled wine on my jacket, and snapped, "Shut your mouth. Nobody here thinks you're worth a degree." Dad smirked. Mom said, "She's just upset." I said nothing. That night, I made one call. By 8:12 a.m., they finally learned what I'd just taken back. My name is Emmett. I'm 28. This story has timestamps because the timing is how I remember it, and because the timing is the part that matters. Not what they said, when they said it. Not what I did, when I did it. The clock is the structure because the clock is what made it real. Before the dinner, I need to tell you what I am to my family. Not who I am. What I am. There's a difference. Who I am is a man who spent 4 years taking night classes at a state university without telling anyone. Who I am is a man who got accepted to a graduate program that takes 12% of applicants, 504 out of 4,200, with a full-ride scholarship worth $87,000 over 2 years. What I am to my family is a debit card. I've been auto-transferring $1,400 a month to my parents' account for 3 years. They call it contributing to the household. I moved out 4 years ago. The transfer started when my sister Margot moved back home after her third job ended in 7 months, a pattern she's maintained like a subscription service for unemployment, and the family needed help with the extra cost. Margot's return increased the household expenses. I, who don't live there, who haven't slept under that roof since I was 24, who has his own rent and his own electric bill and his own grocery budget that consists primarily of rice and whatever protein is on sale at the store closest to his apartment, have been paying for it. 36 months at $1,400. Total, $50,400. Nobody has said thank you. Nobody has acknowledged the number exists. The number exists anyway. It exists on my bank statement every month like a scar that renews itself on the 1st. But the $1,400 is just the headline. Underneath, it is the fine print. I drive my mom Connie to her appointments. 34 trips in the last year. I counted after the dinner because counting felt better than screaming and because I needed the number to be real and not just a feeling. Dermatologist, twice. Dentist, 4 times. Eye doctor, 3. The specialist in Brookton that's 40 minutes each way and where the waiting room smells like antiseptic and old magazines, and where I sat for 2 hours once reading a Sports Illustrated from 2019 while Connie had a procedure she never told me the results of. I file my dad Vernon's taxes every April, a process that takes 11 hours across 2 weekends because Vernon keeps receipts in a shoebox and the shoebox has no organizing principle except it's all in there. Just look. I fixed the hot water heater in February when the pilot light died and Vernon said, "I don't trust those things," like the heater was a person with a criminal record. I fixed the garage door when the spring broke and the opener made a sound like a dying animal. I replaced the bathroom plumbing, both supply lines and the drain, on a Saturday that I had planned to study but didn't because the family needed the handyman more than they needed the student. I helped Margot move apartments twice. The second time, I carried her couch up 3 flights of stairs with a friend I bribed with pizza, and she didn't offer us water. She was on her phone in the doorway while I sweated through my shirt on the landing. When I set the couch down, she said, "Can you move it to the other wall? I think it looks better over there." I moved the couch to the other wall. And the part one haven't told anyone until now. I've been writing Margot's job applications. Resumes, cover letters, interview prep sheets. 6 applications over 2 years, all my phrasing, my formatting, my structure. She got 2 of those jobs. Both times she told the family she killed the interview. Both times the words she used in the interview were the words I wrote on her prep sheet the night before. The person who told me I wasn't worth a degree has been running on sentences I built for her. The acceptance letter. Let me tell you about the letter. Nobody in my family knows I went back to school. For 4 years I attended night classes at Ridgemont State, Tuesday and Thursday evenings and Saturday mornings. I told my family I was working late or covering a shift. Nobody questioned it because nobody asks me questions that don't involve a favor. I finished my bachelor's degree part-time while working full-time at a logistics company where I manage warehouse operations for $52,000 a year and spend most of my days in a fluorescent-lit office that smells like cardboard and the cold coffee I forget to drink. I graduated 8 months ago. Nobody was at the ceremony because nobody knew about it. Renee was there. Renee knows everything. The graduate program accepted 12% of applicants. My application had 3 recommendation letters from professors who used words like exceptional and strongest non-traditional candidate in the cohort. The program director emailed me personally. The acceptance came with a full-ride scholarship, $87,000 over 2 years, tuition, books, fees, and a $6,000 annual living stipend. I didn't just get in. I got paid to attend. The scholarship meant I could leave without needing anyone's money. I wouldn't need the $1,400 a month. I wouldn't need anything from anyone at that dinner table. The scholarship was an exit door with no toll booth. There's another detail. My grandmother Ruth's will contains a clause that awards a $40,000 education bonus to any grandchild who completes a graduate degree. It's specific. It's documented. If I finish the program, I get $40,000. Margot never completed undergrad. She can never access it. Margot applied to the same program 2 years ago. She was rejected. She told nobody. I found out through a cousin who works in admissions admin at the university and recognized our last name when my acceptance came through. She told me over a beer at a bar where the music was too loud. Your sister applied too, right? Different cycle, same program. She said it casually, like confirming a fact, not detonating one. Margot's rage at the dinner wasn't abstract jealousy. It was the specific fury of watching someone succeed at the exact thing you failed at, in front of the family you told you never tried. The ripped letter wasn't anger. It was evidence destruction. If the letter doesn't exist, the comparison can't be made. And there's Ruth's will. My grandmother Ruth left a clause that awards a $40,000 education bonus to any grandchild who completes a graduate degree. Specific. Documented. Ruth's way of saying, learn something from beyond the grave. If I finish the program, I get $40,000 that Margot can never access because she never completed undergrad. Margot isn't just watching me succeed. She's watching $40,000 walk across a dinner table towards someone else, and the ripped letter was an attempt to stop the money with her hands because she couldn't stop it with her credentials. 7:14 p.m. Vernon raises a glass. To Emmett. Congratulations on, what is it again? He's asking what the letter is for, even though I told him 3 times. Connie smiles. Margot is sitting across from me in a chair she hasn't adjusted, arms crossed, jaw tight, doing that thing she does with her thumbnail where she picks at the cuticle when she's building towards something. The table is set for 4. Renee wasn't invited. Family dinner, Connie said, which means the people who share a last name and a checking account. I printed the acceptance letter to show them. I wanted it to be physical, something they could hold, something real in a family that prefers everything to stay vague and deniable. I set it on the table next to the bread basket like it was another dish being served. 7:22 p.m. Vernon picks up the letter, reads it, sets it down, says, that's a lot of school for someone who already has a job. Connie says, that's wonderful, honey. She says, wonderful the way you say interesting about a painting you don't understand and don't plan to look at again. Margot hasn't touched the letter. She's looking at it from across the table the way you look at a bill you weren't expecting. 7:31 p.m. Margot speaks for the first time. She says, so you're just going to leave? Who's going to help Mom with appointments? Who's going to do Dad's taxes? She doesn't mention the $1,400. She doesn't mention the resumes. She doesn't ask about the program or the scholarship or what it means to get into something that rejects 88% of the people who want it. She asks who will replace the labor. I say, I'll help figure that out before I go. She says, you'll figure it out. Great. Like you figured out how to disappear on Tuesday nights for 4 years and not tell anyone. I stop chewing. She knows about the night classes. Or she guessed. Or she's fishing. I don't answer. She takes my silence as confirmation. 7:38 p.m. Margot reaches across the table. She picks up the letter. I watch her fingers close around the paper that represents 4 years of Tuesday nights and Saturday mornings and library sessions and a statistics exam I studied for in a parking lot on my lunch break because there was nowhere else quiet enough. And I know what she's going to do before she does it the same way you know a glass is going to fall because it's too close to the edge and nobody moved it. And physics is physics and families are families and some things are just gravity. Wearing a dress. 7:39 p.m. She rips it. Down the middle. 2 halves. The sound is small and specific, like tearing a page out of a book in a quiet room where everyone is pretending to read. She drops the pieces on the table. 1 half lands in the bread basket. The other slides toward my plate and stops against the base of my water glass. Then she picks up her wine glass, a glass of red that Connie poured for her 20 minutes ago from a bottle that cost $11 at the grocery store, and she pours it on my jacket. Red wine. Not a splash. A pour. Deliberate. The kind of pour where the wrist rotates and the glass tilts past the point of accident and into the territory of decision. My only good jacket, the one Renee bought me for my birthday last March because I told her I didn't need anything nice, and she said, "That's exactly why I'm buying it." The wine runs down the lapel like it's looking for a place to settle and pools in my lap, and I can feel it soaking through the fabric to my shirt to my skin, and the smell is sharp and tannic and sweet in a way that will never come out. Renee's gift. Margot's statement. Both now permanent. She says, "Shut your mouth. Nobody here thinks you're worth a degree." Vernon smirks. I see it. He thinks I can't see it from this angle because I'm looking down at the wine soaking into my pants. But I've been reading that smirk for 28 years the way a sailor reads wind. I don't need to see it directly. I feel it in the room the way you feel the temperature change when someone opens a door in winter. Connie reaches for a napkin. Not a confrontation. A napkin. She says, she's just upset, honey. She's been going through a lot. A lot. The universal solvent for Margot's behavior. Pour a lot on anything she does, and it dissolves into something the family can swallow without chewing. This is the same Margot who, when I was 16 and got my first real report card with all A's and 1B+, said, "Big deal. You go to public school," at the dinner table, and Vernon laughed and Connie said, "She's just competitive, sweetie." That was the good memory, not the insult. The competitive part. Because for a while, before she dropped out and the job started failing and the bitterness calcified, Margot was competitive. She was sharp. She used to quiz me on vocabulary words from her own textbooks when I was 12 and she was 14, and we'd sit on the back porch, and she'd pronounce the words wrong, and I'd correct her, and she'd throw the book at me, and we'd both laugh. She was someone. The person at this dinner table is wearing the face of someone I used to sit on a porch with, and I can't make the two versions fit together, and that's the part that hurts more than the wine. I pick up the two halves of the letter. I put them in my jacket pocket, the dry one. I stand up. I push in my chair. The chair legs scrape the floor, and the sound is louder than anything I've said all evening because I haven't said anything all evening. I walk to the door. Connie says, "Emmett, sit down." She didn't mean it. I open the door. I close it behind me. The latch clicks. That's the last sound I make in their house. 8:03 p.m. I'm in my car. The wine on my jacket is cold now, that specific cold of liquid that's been absorbing body heat and losing it at the same time, and the two halves of the letter are in my pocket pressed against my chest. I don't turn on the radio. The drive home is 34 minutes. 34 minutes of streetlights and stop signs and the sound of my own breathing and the hum of tires on asphalt and one red light that lasted so long I thought time had stopped and then realized time was fine. I was the one who wasn't moving. I spend every minute doing math. $1,400 a month for 36 months. $50,400. 34 drives to mom's appointments, at an average of 22 minutes each way. That's approximately 25 hours of windshield time. 6 resumes, each taking 3 to 4 hours of drafting and formatting and tailoring. That's 20 hours of writing someone else's career in a voice I made sound like hers. 2 apartment moves. 1 hot water heater. 1 garage door. 1 set of bathroom pipes. 1 jacket, ruined. 1 letter, ripped. 1 father, smirking. 1 mother, cleaning up the stain instead of addressing the person who made it. 1 sister, performing cruelty like it was the evening's entertainment. The math doesn't balance. It was never designed to. 8:37 p.m. I pull into my apartment complex. I sit in the parking spot for 22 minutes. The car smells like red wine and the vinyl of a driver's seat that absorbed the day's heat and is releasing it slowly into the backs of my legs. A neighbor walks past with a dog that's pulling her toward a fire hydrant with the enthusiasm of a creature that has never once thought about money or family or dignity or the specific weight of a torn piece of paper in a jacket pocket. I watch the dog. I watch the neighbor get dragged. I stay in the car. 8:59 p.m. I go inside. Renee is on the couch with her laptop and a mug of tea that's gone cold based on the way she's not drinking it. She sees the jacket. She sees the stains spreading down the lapel like a map of a country nobody wants to visit. She sees my face. She doesn't ask what happened because Renee reads weather, not words. And the weather on my face is a system she's been tracking for 3 years with the accuracy of someone who pays attention as a form of love. I sit at the kitchen table. The table is small, for chairs, and the overhead light makes a buzzing sound at a frequency I've never been able to fix and have stopped trying to. I tell her everything. She listens without interrupting, which with Renee is not patience, it's strategy. She collects data before she speaks. When I finish, she's quiet for about 30 seconds, which for Renee is the equivalent of a normal person being quiet for a full afternoon, because Renee has opinions the way thunderstorms have rain, and they don't hold back unless she's choosing her words the way a surgeon chooses an instrument. She says, "How long are you going to let them use you as the foundation of a house they won't let you live in?" I look at her. She looks at the wine stain. She doesn't look away from it. She says, "Open your email." I open my laptop. There's a message from the program director, sent that afternoon at 3:47 p.m. while I was ironing the jacket that Margot would ruin 4 hours later. A follow-up welcoming me personally, confirming the scholarship. Attached, a digital PDF of the acceptance letter. Full resolution. Printable. Official. The letter Margot ripped was the ceremonial copy. The souvenir. The real acceptance has been sitting in my inbox since before the dinner started, backed up on a server that Margot can't reach with her hands and can't stain with her wine. She tore paper. The future is in the cloud. I look at the email. I look at the torn halves in my jacket pocket draped over the chair. I look at Renee. Part of me wants to call Connie and hear her say something that sounds like caring even if it isn't. The way you sometimes want to hear a song you know is bad, because it's familiar and familiar is warm even when it's wrong. Part of me wants to drive back and put the letter pieces on the table and say, "Look at what she did. Look at what you let happen while you reached for a napkin like the stain was the problem." And a small part of me, the part one don't talk about, the part that lives in a room I don't show Renee or anyone, wants to keep sending the $1,400 and keep driving to the appointments and keep writing the resumes, because stopping means admitting that I was doing it for nothing, that the love I was trying to buy with service and silence and monthly deposits was never for sale. That's the ugliest thought, not the anger, the wanting to continue. Renee says, "Make the call." I pick up my phone. 11:47 p.m. Call 1. My bank's 24-hour service line. I cancel the $1,400 auto transfer to my parents' account. Effective immediately. The woman on the phone, whose name is Deborah and who is eating something between keystrokes, asks if I want to set up a new recurring transfer to a different account. I say yes. I redirect the $1,400 to my own savings. The money that's been leaving my account for 36 months just changed direction. It flows toward me now. Call 2. The apartment complex where Margot lives. I'm the co-signer and guarantor on her lease. $1,850 a month for a one-bedroom she can't quite afford alone and has been about to get a better job for 14 months. I leave a message for the leasing office. I'm removing myself as co-signer and guarantor, effective 30 days. Margot's credit score is somewhere in the low 500s. She cannot qualify for that apartment alone. Call 3. The auto loan company. I co-signed Margot's car loan 2 years ago because her credit couldn't secure the rate. I initiate the removal process. Her individual credit must qualify independently within 60 days or the loan terms restructure. 3 calls. 22 minutes total. The financial architecture I built under my family's life. The monthly payments and the guarantees and the cosigns that kept the lights on and the car running and the apartment occupied, removed. 3 pillars pulled from under a building that thinks it's standing on its own. Call 4. The program's admissions emergency voicemail. I confirm my acceptance. I note that the physical letter was destroyed and request all future correspondence be sent digitally to my personal email only. I provide a new mailing address, my apartment, not my parents' house, which had been the address on file because Connie once offered to hold your important mail so it doesn't get lost. I change every contact point. Phone, email, mailing address. The family is removed from the information pipeline. They'll never see another letter. Call 5. My grandmother Ruth's estate attorney. I confirm that my acceptance into a graduate program triggers the $40,000 education bonus clause in the will. The attorney confirms. Funds released upon enrollment verification. I ask one question. Is there any way for another family member to contest this or redirect the funds? He says, no. The clause is specific to degree completion by a named beneficiary. Your enrollment starts the clock. I hang up. $40,000 that nobody in my family can touch, activated by a letter my sister tried to destroy with her hands. 11:47 to 12:09. 22 minutes. 5 calls. The person they said wasn't worth a degree just became the person who stops paying for the people who said it. 2 hours earlier, at 9:42 p.m., Vernon texted me. Your sister's been through a lot. Don't make this bigger than it needs to be. She'll apologize when she's ready. I screenshotted it. Didn't respond. I looked at the text for a while. When she's ready. Not when I deserve one. When she's ready. Like the apology is a resource that belongs to her, and she'll release it when the schedule allows. I'm not waiting. The table's been cleared. At 10:30 p.m., Connie left a voicemail. Her voice was the voice she uses when she's managing a situation, soft and careful, like someone handling something fragile, except the fragile thing is always Margot, and the person asked to hold it is always me. She said, Honey, I know tonight was hard, but your sister is really struggling right now, and she didn't mean what she said. Maybe you could call her tomorrow and let her know there's no hard feelings? You've always been the bigger person. The bigger person. That phrase. Deployed exclusively toward the person absorbing damage. Nobody ever asks the person dealing damage to get smaller. They just ask the target to expand until the damage fits inside it. I've been expanding for 28 years. Tonight I stopped. At 11:15 p.m., 32 minutes before the calls, Margot posted on Instagram. A photo from earlier that day, before the dinner, smiling in a mirror in a bathroom with good lighting. The smile she uses when the camera is on, which is different from the one she uses when it isn't. Caption, family dinner tonight. Blessed. Some people chase degrees, I chase peace. Renee showed me. She held the phone out the way you hold something that smells wrong. She said, she posted that after what she did. I looked at the photo, the mirror, the smile, the word blessed underneath it like a price tag on something that was never for sale. I said, she posts who she wants to be. She performs who she thinks she is. I put the phone down, sat there for a minute, picked it up, made the calls. 8:12 a.m. 3 things happen at once. Vernon's bank account shows the $1,400 deposit didn't arrive for the first time in 36 months. Margot's leasing office sends an automated email requesting a credit review within 14 days due to guarantor withdrawal. And the auto loan company sends Margot a notice that her co-signer has initiated removal and her individual credit must qualify independently within 60 days or the loan terms will be restructured. 3 notifications. One morning, Vernon calls at 8:12 a.m. His voice is different. Not angry, not apologetic, confused. The specific confusion of a man who has been standing on a floor for 36 months without realizing someone else was holding it up, and the floor just dropped 3 inches. He says, Emmett, the transfer didn't come through. Is there an issue with your bank? He's calling about the money, not about the letter, not about the wine. Not about what his daughter did in front of him while he sat there with a smirk that cost him more than he'll understand for months. The first call from my father after the worst dinner of my life is about a missing $1,400 deposit. That tells me everything about my position in this family that I didn't already know, which at this point is nothing, but hearing it confirmed at 8:12 on a Tuesday morning while I'm standing in my kitchen eating cereal from a bowl Renee left in the dish rack, because she's already at work, because she has a job and a routine and a life that doesn't revolve around managing other people's dysfunction. That confirmation lands differently than knowing. Knowing is in your head. Confirmation is in your chest. I say, there's no issue. I canceled it. He says, you canceled it? I say yes. He says, Emmett, we depend on that. I say I know. He says nothing for about 4 seconds. For seconds of dead air on a phone line between a father and a son who just stopped being the floor. The 4 seconds sound like a house settling. Or a house starting to. Margot calls 3 times before 9 a.m. I don't answer. The voicemails escalate. First, hey, I got some weird email from my building. Something about a credit review. Second, can you call the leasing office? I think there's a mistake. Third, Emmett, what did you do? Mom says the money didn't come in either. Call me back. This isn't funny. 3 voicemails in 40 minutes. The person who tore a scholarship letter in half and said nobody thinks I'm worth a degree is leaving increasingly frantic messages because the person she called worthless is the only person whose name keeps her housed and mobile. The next 2 weeks were a demolition nobody expected because nobody realized the building was standing on my name. 2 weeks of phone calls I didn't answer and texts I didn't read and a silence that made noise in every room I wasn't in. I traced the $1,400 with Renee's help. She works in banking and has the kind of professional curiosity that turns a question into an excavation. We found where the money went. It wasn't going to household expenses the way my parents described. $800 a month went directly to Margot's car payment and insurance. $400 went to Margot's phone bill and subscription services, the clothing rental, the streaming, the delivery apps. $200 went to a credit card minimum in Connie's name that was maxed out by Margot. My household contribution was a sister subsidy with a family label. I was paying $1,400 a month to fund the lifestyle of the person who poured wine on me and called me worthless. Then Renee found the other thing. My parents have a savings account with $23,000 in it. Opened 2 years ago. The deposits correlate to my transfers. They took my monthly payments, covered the real household costs from Vernon's salary, which was always sufficient, and banked my money as their personal savings. My contributions were never needed. They were harvested. $50,400 sent over 3 years, $23,000 of which is sitting in an account I didn't know about, earning interest I'll never see. When I confronted Vernon, he said, "That was for emergencies." I said, "Whose emergencies?" Because mine was a wine stain and a torn letter, and nobody in this family treated that as an emergency. He didn't respond. He picked up his coffee and put it down without drinking it, which is Vernon's way of holding something while deciding whether to throw it. Margot lost her job. Not directly because of me, but the financial stress of the lease notification and the car loan restructuring consumed her focus in a way her focus was not built to absorb. She missed 3 shifts in 5 days. They let her go. She asked me to write her a new resume. I didn't respond. She asked Connie to ask me. Connie called. I said, "I've been writing her resumes for 2 years. Every application, every cover letter. She can write her own." Connie went quiet. The quiet of a woman learning that the machine she's been watching run for years had an engine she never looked at. Vernon didn't know either. The family discovered that Margot's interview skills and the confidence she bragged about at family dinners were built by the brother she humiliated. Her next 3 applications, the one she wrote herself, got no callbacks. The night classes came out too. A neighbor of Connie's attends Ridgemont State. She saw me at last spring's commencement and mentioned it at a grocery store checkout line with the casual confidence of someone sharing good news, not knowing it was a secret. "Your son graduated, right? I saw him at the ceremony. You must be so proud." Connie called me that evening. "You graduated? You have a degree already." I said, "For 8 months." She said, "Why didn't you tell us?" I said, "When would I have told you, Mom? Between driving you to the dentist and writing your daughter's resumes and filing Dad's taxes? Which conversation was I supposed to interrupt?" She started to say something. Stopped. I could hear the kitchen faucet running in the background. That specific sound of water hitting stainless steel that I grew up listening to while doing homework at the table nobody saved a seat at. She hung up without finishing the sentence. I don't know what she was going to say. I'm not sure she does either. Margot's lease situation resolved the way gravity resolves things, downward. Her credit couldn't qualify a loan. The leasing office offered a month-to-month conversion at a rate $340 higher per month. She couldn't afford it. She tried to find a new co-signer. Her friend Danielle agreed, then pulled out after seeing Margot's credit report. Another friend said, "I love you, but I'm not putting my name on your life right now," which is the kind of sentence that sounds supportive and isn't. Margot moved back in with Vernon and Connie. The apartment I co-signed, the apartment I found and negotiated and put my credit on the line for, the apartment where she lived while telling the family she was independent and making it work, is occupied by someone else now. Margot is in her childhood bedroom. The room with the window and the closet with the door that locked. Not the garage. The car loan restructured at a rate 4.2% higher because her individual credit profile is what 3 years of missed payments and maxed cards and closed accounts have made it. Her monthly payment went up $118. She asked Vernon for help. Vernon, who no longer has the $1,400 monthly cushion from the son he smirked at, who is making $4,000 monthly payments back to nobody because the money just stopped arriving like a river changing course, said he'd try to figure something out. Which is Vernon's version of no delivered in a sentence shaped like maybe, so nobody has to feel the full weight of the word. 3 months later. The 3 months between the dinner and September felt like a hallway with no doors. 3 months of packing boxes. 3 months of Renee finding apartments in a city neither of us had been to but both of us wanted to try. 3 months of Tuesday nights that were suddenly free because the classes were done and the degree was earned and the nights belonged to me now in a way they hadn't for 4 years. 3 months of a phone that didn't ring from the numbers it used to ring from and a bank account that grew $1,400 richer every month because the money stayed where it was made. 3 months of waking up and not checking whether Vernon texted because Vernon doesn't text unless the transfer is late and the transfer will never be late again because there is no transfer. 3 months of silence from a family that apparently needed me more than they needed to talk to me because once the money stopped, the phone stopped too. And that sequence tells you everything about the order of priority. September 4th. 9 a.m. I'm sitting in a lecture hall at the graduate program. Room of 22 students. The chairs are the kind with the small attached desks that fold up from the side and aren't big enough for a laptop, but I balance it anyway because I've spent 4 years balancing things that don't fit in the space I was given. The room smells like new carpet and coffee from a machine in the hallway that gurgles between cups and something else, something clean, like the inside of a building nobody has messed up yet. The student next to me has a notebook open and a pen ready, and she's writing her name on the first page with the careful handwriting of someone who knows this page is going to matter. I understand that instinct. Everything from this point matters differently. The professor walks in. She has gray hair cut short and reading glasses hanging from a chain around her neck, and she moves through the room the way someone moves through a space they've earned the right to be in, not fast, not slow, just present. She puts a syllabus on the desk. She looks at us. All 22. She says, "Welcome. You're here because you earned it." I open my laptop. The background image is a screenshot of the scholarship deposit notification. $43,500. Semester 1. Tuition, books, fees, and a $3,000 stipend installment. More money in one deposit than the $1,400 a month I sent home for 3 years combined. The degree they said wasn't worth having just put more into my account in a single transaction than 36 months of gratitude they never offered for 36 payments they never acknowledged. Ruth's estate attorney sent the check 2 weeks before classes started. $40,000. The education bonus, triggered by graduate enrollment, released upon verification. I deposited it in a separate account I labeled Ruth Fund because labeling things is how I process them. And because Ruth deserves her name on the money she saved and the clause she wrote, in the future, she saw more clearly from inside a will than anyone in my family saw from inside the same house. I didn't tell the family. Margot found out through the cousins 6 weeks later. She called screaming. She said the money should have been split. I said it was split between grandchildren who completed degrees and grandchildren who didn't. Grandma wrote it that way. Take it up with her. I hung up. She called back. I didn't answer. Vernon left a voicemail last week. 23 seconds. I know because I checked the duration before I played it. The way I check everything now, with the precision of a man who's learned that the details are the only honest part of any story his family tells. He said, "I should have said something at that dinner. Not after. At. I listened to it sitting at my new desk in a studio apartment in a city where nobody knows my family, in a program that accepted 12% of applicants. Wearing a jacket Renee bought me to replace the one Margot stained. A jacket that fits better than the old one and cost more, and that Renee said was an upgrade in every way, including the person who picked it. I saved the voicemail. Not because it's an apology. It's not. It's an admission that arrives 3 months late and takes 23 seconds and says everything by acknowledging one word. At. He should have said something at the dinner. Not after. At. The timing. Always the timing. I write the date at the top of a blank document. September 4th. First note of my graduate career. The cursor blinks on an empty page in a room full of people who were told they earned something and believed it because the person saying it meant it. The professor said, "You earned it," to a room of 22 people, And it was the first time anyone said those words to me and meant all of them. I wrote the date, September 4th. That's when it started being mine. Subscribe. Next one hits harder.